Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to our read aloud of Dracula by Bram Stoker. Can't believe I haven't done this on this channel before now, but not entirely on my own. I have not. So we are up to chapter 14. Chapter 13 ended with the newspaper, the local newspaper, mentioning mysterious accounts of the Bloofer lady luring children on Hampstead Hill. And now we are into chapter 14, which I should warn you ahead of time is Van Helsing heavy. So we are in Mina's journal. She is not Mina Murray anymore. She is now Mina Harker's journal for the 23rd of September. So keep in mind, this is happening very quickly and always in these contemporaneous accounts. Jonathan is better after a bad night. Remember, Jonathan had the shock of a lifetime because he has gradually managed to make his way to London, make his way to England. And there he is in a crowd when in the crowd he sees Count Dracula. And not only Count Dracula, but Count Dracula grown young again. Dracula is not anymore in his decrepit castle. He is in a teeming metropolis. Jonathan is better after a bad night. I am so glad that he has plenty of work to do, for that keeps his mind off the terrible things. And oh, I am rejoiced that he is now weighed down with the responsibilities of his new position. He has taken over the entire law practice of his friend Hawkins, so he is now an estimable man. Also taken over the house. I knew he would be true to himself, and how proud I am to see my Jonathan rising to the height of his advancement and keeping pace in all the ways of the duties that are come to him. He will be away all day till late, for he said he could not lunch at home. My household work is done, so I shall take up his foreign journal and lock myself up in my room and read it. Then we have an entry for the next day, 24th of September. I hadn't the heart to write last night. What terrible record of Jonathan's upset me so. Poor dear, how he must have suffered, whether it be true or only imagination. I wonder if there is any truth in it at all. Yes, yeah, but that's... Remember what we read in that journal. None of it seems real. Did he get his brain fever and then write all those terrible things, or had he some cause for it all? I suppose I shall never know, for I dare not open the subject with him. Oh, you'll know, all right. And yet that man, the man he saw yesterday, he seemed quite certain of him. Poor fellow. I suppose it was the funeral upset him and sent his mind back in some train of thought. He believes it all himself. I remember how on our wedding day he said, unless some solemn duty come upon me to go back to those bitter hours, asleep or awake, mad or sane. There seems to be, through it all, some thread of continuity. That fearful Count was coming to London. If he came to London with its teeming millions, there may be a solemn day, and it shall come. If it shall come, we shall not shrink from it. I shall be prepared. I shall get my typewriter this very hour and begin transcribing. Then we will be ready for other eyes if required. And if it be wanted, then perhaps, if I am ready, poor Jonathan may not be upset, for I can speak for him and never let him be troubled or worried with it at all. If ever Jonathan quite gets over the nervousness, he may want to tell me of it all, and I can ask him questions and find out things and see how I might comfort him. The key thing being there, that Mina intends to transcribe the journal of Jonathan Harker, which he has written in shorthand, just like she's keeping her journal in shorthand. So as long as his journal from Transylvania is in shorthand, no one else can read it. She's going to transcribe it. That becomes very important because how else can Van Helsing read it? Then we get a letter from Van Helsing to Mina, dated 24th of September. Dear Madam, I pray you pardon my writing, in that I am so far friend as I may send you sad news of Lucy Bustenra's death. By the kindness of Lord Godalming, I am empowered to read her letters and papers, for I am deeply concerned about certain matters vitally important. In them I find some letters from you, which show how great friends you were and how you love her. Oh, Madam Mina, by that love I implore you, help me. It is for others' good that I ask, to regress great wrong and to lift much terrible troubles that may be more great than you can know. May it be that I see you? You can trust me. I am friend of Dr. John Seward and of Lord Godalming, that was Arthur to Miss Lucy. I must keep it private for the present from all. I should come to Exeter to see you at once, if you will tell me I am privileged to come, and when and where. I implore your pardon, madam. I have read your letters to poor Lucy, and know how good you are and how your husband suffer. So I pray you, if it may be, enlighten him not, lest it may harm. Again, your pardon, and forgive me. And she telegrams him back, come today by 10:15 train if you can catch it. Can see you anytime you call. keep in mind, this is a little odd. A stranger is writing to a married woman, telling her, I have read your private correspondence and I would like to see you, but I don't want your husband present. That's a little odd. So Mina writes in her journal on the 25th of September, I cannot help feeling terribly excited as the time draws near for the visit of Dr. Van Helsing. For somehow I expect that it will throw some light upon Jonathan's sad experience. As he attended poor dear Lucy in her last illness, he can tell me all about her. That is the reason for his coming. It is concerning Lucy and her sleepwalking, and not about Jonathan. Then I shall know. Then I shall never know the real truth. Now, how silly I am! That awful journal gets hold of my imagination and tinges everything with something of its own color. Of course, it is about Lucy. That habit came back to the poor dear, and that awful night on the cliff must have made her ill. I had almost forgotten in my own affairs how ill she was afterwards. She must have told him of her sleepwalking adventure on the cliffs, and that I knew all about it, and now he wants me to tell him about it so that he may understand. I hope I did right in not saying anything to it about Mrs. Westendro. I should never forgive myself if any act of mine, were it even a negligent one, brought harm on poor dear Lucy. I hope, too, Dr. Van Helsing will not blame me. I have not had so much trouble and anxiety of late that I feel I cannot bear more just at present. I suppose a cry does us all good at times, clears the air as the rain does. Perhaps it was reading the journal yesterday that upset me, and then Jonathan went away this morning to stay away from me the whole day and night. The first we have been parted since our marriage. I do hope the dear fellow will take care of himself, and that nothing will occur to upset him. It is 2:00, and the doctor will be here soon now. I shall say nothing of Jonathan's journal unless he asks me. I am so glad I have typewritten out my own journal, so that in case he asks after Lucy, I can hand it to him, which will save much questioning. And then she continues her journal later in the day. He has come and gone. Oh, what a strange meeting, and how it all makes my head whirl round. I feel like in one in a dream. Can it all be possible, or even part of it? If I had not read Jonathan's journal first, I should not have accepted even a possibility. Poor, dear Jonathan, how he must have suffered. Please the good God, all this may not upset him again. I shall try to save him from it, but it may be even a consolation and a help to him, terrible though it may be and awful in its consequences, to know for certain that his eyes and ears and brain did not deceive him, that it is all true. It may be that it is the doubt which haunts him, and that when the doubt is removed, no matter which, waking or dreaming, may prove true, he will be more satisfied and better able to bear the shock. Dr. Van Helsing must be a good man as well as a clever one if he is Arthur's friend and Dr. Seward's, and if they have brought him all the way from Holland to look after Lucy. I feel, from having seen him, that he is a good and kind and noble creature, also daft in the head. When he comes tomorrow, I shall ask him about Jonathan, and then, please God, all this sorrow and anxiety may lead to a good end. I used to think that I would like to practice interviewing. Jonathan's friend of the Exeter News told me that memory was everything in such work, that you must be able to put it down exactly, almost every word spoken, even if you had to refine it somewhat afterwards. Here was a rare interview. I shall try to record it verbatim. Because you didn't have tape recorders back then when you were a news journalist, although most journalists in Exeter or in London would have envied Mina's ability for shorthand. That's the key, and a great deal of journalists doing interviews relied on memory, which can often lead to mistakes, whereas if you're doing shorthand, you can take the whole thing down contemporaneously, word for word. It was 2:30 when the knock came. I took my courage in both hands and waited. In a few minutes, Mary opened the door and announced Dr. Van Helsing. I rose and bowed, and he came towards me, a man of medium height, strongly built, with shoulders set back over a broad, deep chest, and a neck well balanced on the trunk as its head on the neck. The poise of the head strikes one at once as indicative of thought and power. The head is noble, well-sized, broad, and large behind the ears. The face, clean-shaven, shows a hard, square chin, a large, resolute, mobile mouth, a good-sized nose, rather straight, but with a quick, sensitive nostrils that seem to broaden as the big, bushy brows come down and the mouth tightens. The forehead is broad and fine, rising at first almost straight and then sloping back over two bumps or ridges wide apart. Such a forehead that the reddish hair cannot possibly tumble over it, but falls naturally back and to the sides. Big, dark blue eyes are set widely apart and are quick and tender or stern as the man's moods. Here we have Bram Stoker casting the part. And the description is uncannily like a particular person that Stoker knew. He said to me, "Mrs. Harker, is it not?" I bowed. That was Miss Mina Murray? Again, I assented. It is Miss Mina that I came to see, that was friend of poor dear child Lucy. Madam Mina, it is on account of the dead that I come. Sir, I said, you could have no better claim on me than that you were friend and helper of Lucy. And I held out my hand. He took it and said tenderly, Oh, Madam Mina, I knew that the friend that poor Lily girl must be good, but I had yet to learn. He finished his speech with a courtly bow, and I asked him what it was that he wanted to see me about, and he began at once. I have read your letters to Miss Lucy. Forgive me, but I had to begin to inquire somewhere, and there was none to ask. I know that you were with her at Whitby. She sometimes kept a diary. You need not look surprised, Madam Mina. It was begun after you left, and was made in imitation of you. In that diary she traces by inference certain things to be sleepwalking, in which she puts down that you saved her. In great perplexity that I come to you and ask you out of your own much kindness to tell me all that you remember. I can tell you, I think, Dr. Van Helsing, all about it. Ah, then you have a good memory for facts, for details? It is not always so with young ladies. Nor young men, Dr. Van Helsing. No, Doctor, but I wrote it all down at the time. I can show it to you if you like. Oh, Madam Mina, I would be grateful. You will do me much favor. I could not resist the temptation of mystifying him a bit. I suppose it is some taste of the original apple that remains still in our mouths. So I handed him the shorthand diary. He took it with a grateful bow and said, May I read it? If you wish, I answered, as demurely as I could. He opened it, and for an instant his face fell. Then he stood up and bowed. Ah, you so clever woman. I long knew that Mr. Jonathan was a man of much thankfulness, but see his wife have all the good things. And will you not so much honor me and help me to read it? Alas, I know not the shorthand. By this time my little joke was over, and I was almost ashamed, so I took the typewritten copy from my work basket and handed it to him. I don't have a work basket. I kind of wish I did. It sounds neat. Forgive me, I said. I could not help it, but I had been thinking that it was of dear Lucy that you wished to ask, and so that you might not have to wait, not on my account, but because I know your time must be precious, I've written it out on the typewriter for you. He took it, and his eyes glistened. You are so good, he said. And may I read it now? I may want to ask some things when I have read. By all means, I said. Read it over whilst I order lunch, and then you can ask me the questions whilst we eat. He bowed and settled himself in a chair with his back to the light and became absorbed in the papers, whilst I went to see after lunch, chiefly in order that he might not be disturbed. When I came back, I found him walking hurriedly up and down the room, his face all ablaze with excitement. He rushed up to me and took me by both hands. Oh, Madam Mina, he said, how can I say what I owe you? That paper is as sunshine. It opens the gates to me. I am dazzled with so much light, and yet clouds roll in behind the light every time. But that you cannot comprehend. Oh, but I am grateful to you, you so clever woman. Madam, if ever Abraham Van Helsing can do anything for you or yours, I trust you will let me know. It will be pleasure and delight if I may serve you as a friend, but all that I have ever learned I can ever do shall be for you and for those you love. These are darknesses in life, and there are lights, and you are one of the lights. You will be happy. You will have happy life and good life, and your husband will be blessed in you. But, Doctor, you praise me too much, and you do not know me. Not know you? I, who am old and who have studied all my life, the men and the women? I, who have made my specialty the brain, and all that belongs to him, and all that follow from him? I have read your diary that you have so goodly written to me, and which breathes out truth in every line. I, who have read your so sweet letter to poor Lucy of your marriage and your trust, not know you? Oh, Madam Mina, good women tell all their lives, and by day, by hour, by minute, such things that angels can read. And we men who wish to know have in us something of angels' eyes. This guy is a loon. Anyway, sorry for the interruption. Your husband is noble nature, and you are noble too, for you trust, and trust cannot be where there is mean nature. Jonathan Harker trusted Dracula. You loon. And your husband, tell me of him. Is he quite well? Is all that fever gone, and is he strong and hardy? Yeah, you're always questioning about the young, strong, hardy men, aren't you, Dr. Van Helsing? Want to grasp him by the shoulder? Want to tell him that you love him? I saw here an opening to ask about Jonathan, so I said, he has almost recovered, but he is greatly upset by Mr. Hawkins' death. He interrupted, oh, yes, I know. I have read your last 2 letters. I went on. I suppose this upset him, for when we were in town Thursday, he had a sort of shock. A shock? After brain fever so soon? That's not good. What kind of shock was it? Here all the threads come together. He thought he saw someone who recalled with something terrible, something which led to his brain fever. And here the whole thing seemed to overwhelm me in a rush. The pity of Jonathan, the horror which he experienced, the whole fearful mystery of his diary, the fear that had been brooding over me ever since, all came in a tumult. I suppose I was hysterical, for I threw myself on my knees and held up my hands to him and implored him to make my husband well again. He took my hands and raised me up and made me sit on the sofa and sat by me, and he held my hand in his and said to me with so much infinite sweetness, "My life is a barren and lonely one, and so full of work that I have not had much time for friendships. But since I have been summoned to here by my friend John Seward, I have known so many good people and seen such nobility that I feel more than ever it has grown with advancing years the loneliness of my life. Believe me then that I shall come here full of respect for you, and you have given me hope not in what I am seeking of, but that there are good women still left to make life happy, good women whose lives and whose truth may make good lessons for the children that be. I am glad that I may be here of some use to you, for if your husband suffer, he suffer within the range of my study and experience. I promise you that I will gladly do all that I can for him, all to make his life strong and manly, and your life a happy one. Now you must eat. You are overwrought, and perhaps over-anxious. Husband Jonathan would not like to see you so pale, and he like not where he love is not to his good. Therefore, for his sake, you must eat and smile. You have told me all about Lucy, so now we shall not speak of it, lest it distress. I shall stay in Exeter tonight, for I want to think much over what you have told me, and when I have thought it all, I will questions I may. But then, too, you will tell me of husband Jonathan's trouble as far as you can. Not yet. You must eat now. Afterwards, you shall tell me all. After lunch, we went back to the drawing room, and he said to me, "And now tell me all about him." When it came to speaking of this great learned man, I began to fear that he would think me a weak fool, and Jonathan a madman. That journal is all so strange. And I hesitated to go on. But he was so sweet and kind, and he had promised to help, and I trusted him. So I said, "Dr. Van Helsing, what I have to tell you is so queer that you must not laugh at me or at my husband. I have been since yesterday in a sort of fever of doubt. You must be kind to me, and not think me foolish that I have even half believed some of the very strange things." He assured me by his manner that all as well as by his words, when he said, "Oh, my dear, if only you knew how strange is the matter regarding which I am here, it is you who would laugh. I have learned not to think little of anyone's beliefs, no matter how strange it may be. I have tried to keep an open mind, and it is not the ordinary things of life that could close it, but the strange things, the extraordinary things, the things that make one doubt if they be mad or sane." Thank you 1,000 times. You have taken a weight off my mind. If you will let me, I shall give you a paper to read. It is long, but I have typewritten it out. I will tell you my trouble, and it will tell you my trouble and Jonathan's. It is a copy of his journal when abroad, and all that happened. I dare not say anything of it. You will read for yourself and judge. Then I will see you. Perhaps you will be kind to tell me what you think. All of Van Helsing's suspicions are in that journal. They are confirmed in that journal. "I promise," said he, as I gave him the papers, "I shall be in the morning, as soon as I can, come to see you and your husband, if I may. John will be here at 11:30, and you must come to lunch with us and see him then. You could catch the quick 3:34 train, which will leave you at Paddington before 8. He was surprised at my knowledge of the trains offhand, but he does not know that I have made up all the trains to and from Exeter, so that I may help Jonathan in case he is in a hurry. So he took the papers with him and went away, and I sit here thinking I do not know what. Then we have a letter from Van Helsing to Mina Harker the next day. "Dear Madam Mina, I have read your husband's so wonderful diary. You may sleep without doubt. Strange and terrible as it is true. I will pledge my life on it. It may be worse for others, but for him and you there is no dread. He is a noble fellow, and let me tell you from experience of men that one who would do as he did in going down that wall and to that room, aye, and going a second time, is not one to be injured in permanence by shock. His brain and his heart are all right. This I swear before I have even seen him. So be at rest. I shall have much to ask him of other things. I am blessed that today I came to see you, for I have learned all so much that I again am dazzled more than ever, and I must think." So Abraham Van Helsing has read Jonathan Harker's diary about Count Dracula. And he comes to the same, among other things, he comes to the same conclusion that we did when we were reading that diary at the beginning of this book, which is that for all of his being a ninny, Jonathan Harker does not lack for courage. Mina writes back to Van Helsing, "Dear Dr. Van Helsing, 1,000 thanks for your kind letter, which has taken a great weight off my mind. And yet, if it be true, what terrible things there are in the world, and what an awful thing if that man, that monster, really be in London." That was Jonathan Harker's first reaction when he sees him. His reaction is, "What have I done? What have I done?" I fear to think I have this moment, whilst writing, had a wire from Jonathan saying that he leaves by the 6:25 tonight from Launceston and will be here at 10:18, so that I shall have no fear tonight. Will you, therefore, instead of lunching with us, perhaps please come to breakfast at 8? If this be not too early for you, you can get away, if you are in a hurry, by the 10:30 train, which will bring you to Paddington by 2:35. Do not answer this, for I shall take it that if I do not hear, you will come to breakfast. And then we get Jonathan Harker's journal. After all this time, he's renewing his journal on the 26th of September. "I thought never to write in this journal again, but the time has come. When I got home last night, Mina had supper ready, and when we had supped, she told me of Van Helsing's visit, and of her having given him the 2 diaries copied out, and of how anxious she had been about me. She showed me in the doctor's letter that all I wrote down was true. It seems to have made a new man of me. It was the doubt as to the reality of the whole thing that knocked me over. I felt impotent and in the dark and distrustful. But now that I know, I am not afraid, even of the Count. He has succeeded, after all, then, in his designs of getting to London, and it was he I saw. He has got younger. And how? Van Helsing is the man to unmask him and hunt him out if he is anything like what Mina says. We sat late and talked it all over. Mina is dressing, and I shall call at the hotel in a few minutes and bring him over. He was, I think, surprised to see me. When I came into the room where he was and introduced myself, he took me by the shoulder and turned my face to the light and said, after sharp scrutiny, 'But Madam Mina told me you were ill, that you had had a shock.' It was so funny to hear my wife called Madam Mina by this kindly, strong-faced old man. I smiled and said, 'I was ill. I have had a shock, but you have cured me already.' 'And how?' 'By your letter to Mina last night. I was in shock, and then everything took a hue of unreality, and I did not know what to trust, even the evidence of my own senses. Not knowing what to trust, I did not know what to do, and so had only to keep on working in that way that hitherto had been the groove of my life. The groove ceased to avail me, and I mistrusted myself. Doctor, you don't know what it is to doubt everything, even yourself. No, you don't. You couldn't with eyebrows like yours." He seemed pleased, and laughed as he said, "So, you are a physiognomist. I learn more here with each hour. I am with so much pleasure coming to you for breakfast, and oh, sir, you will pardon praise from an old man, but you are blessed in your wife." I would listen to go on praising Mina for a day, so I simply nodded and stood silent. "She is one of God's women, fashioned by his own hand to show us men and other women that there is a heaven where we can enter, and that its light can be here on earth. So true, so sweet, so noble, so little an egoist, that, let me tell you, is much in this age, so skeptical and selfish. And you, sir, have I read all your letters to poor Miss Lucy, and some of them speak of you, so I know you since some days from knowing of others. But I have seen your true self since last night. You will give me your hand, will you not? Let us be friends for all our lives." We shook hands, and he was so earnest and so kind that it made me quite choky. "And now," he said, "may I ask you for some help? I have a great task to do, and the beginning it is to know. You can help me here. Can you tell me what went before your going to Pennsylvania? Later on I may ask more help, for a different kind, but at first this will do." "Look here, sir," I said, does what you have to do concern the Count?" "It does," he said solemnly. "Yeah, it does." "Then I am with you heart and soul. As you go by the 10:30 train, you will not have time to read them, but I shall get the bundle of papers. You can take them with you and read them in the train." After breakfast, I saw him to the station. When we parted, he said, "Perhaps you will come to town if I send to you, and take Madam Mina too." "We shall both come when you will." To assemble the whole team. Finally, that would happen. I had got him in the morning papers and the London papers of the previous night, and while we were talking of the carriage window, waiting for the train to start, he was turning them over. His eye suddenly came to catch something in one of them, the Westminster Gazette. I knew it by the color, and he grew quite white. He read something intently, groaning to himself, Mein Gott, so soon." I do not think he remembered me at the moment. Just when the whistle blew and the train moved off, this recalled him to himself, and he leaned out of the window and waved his hand, calling out, "Love to Madam Mina. I shall write as soon as ever I can." He's read the account of the Bloofer lady. So soon. And yet Stoker is not drawing the dots. He's laying them out for us very much as Arthur Conan Doyle does. But he's not drawing them together, and it really does have a hypnotic effect. Then we move to Dr. Seward's diary, because maybe we need some updates on Renfield and other things. This is the 26th of September, so we're keeping right around the same time here. These things are all just happening. People are making records of their own. And remember, Dr. Seward, like Jonathan Harker, has also said goodbye to his diary and is now coming back to it. There is truly no such thing as finality. Not a week since I wrote Fini, and yet here I am starting fresh again, or rather going on with the same record. Until this afternoon, I had no cause to think of what is done. Renfield had become, to all intents and purposes, as sane as he ever was. He was already well ahead of his fly business, and he had just started in the spider line also. So he had not been of any trouble to me. I had a letter from Arthur, written on Sunday, and from it I gather that he is bearing up wonderfully well. Quincy Morris is with him, and that is much of a help, for he himself is as bubbling a well of good spirits. Quincy wrote me a line, and from him I hear that Arthur is beginning to recover something of his old buoyancy, so as to them all my mind is at rest. As for myself, I was setting down to my work with the enthusiasm which I used to have for it, so that I might fairly have said that the wound which poor Lucy left on me was becoming cauterized. Everything is, however, now reopened, and what is to be the end of it, God only knows. I have had an idea that Van Helsing thinks he knows too, but he will only let out enough at a time to whet curiosity. He went to Exeter yesterday and stayed there all night. Today he came back and almost bounded into the room at about 5:30 and thrust last night's Westminster Gazette into my hand. "What do you think of that?" he said, as he stood back and folded his arms. I looked over the paper, for I really do not know what he meant, but he took it from me and pointed out a paragraph about children being decoyed away at Hampstead. It did not convey much to me until I reached a passage where it described small puncture wounds on their throats. An idea struck me, and I looked up. "Well," he said, "it is like poor Lucy's." "And what do you make of it?" "Simply that there is some cause in common. Whatever it was that injured her has injured them." I did not quite understand his answer. "That is true indirectly, but not directly." "Why don't you tell us it directly, you loon, you foreign loon?" How do you mean, Professor?" I asked. I was a little inclined not to take him seriously, not to take his seriousness lightly, for after all, 4 days of rest and freedom from burning, harrowing anxiety does help to restore one's spirits. But when I saw his face, it sobered me. Never, in the midst of our despair about Lucy, had he looked more stern. "Tell me," I said. "I can hazard no opinion. I do not know what to think. I have no data on which to found a conclusion." "Do you mean to tell me, friend John, that you have no suspicion as to what poor Lucy died of? Not after all the hints given, not only of events, but by me?" "Of nervous prostration following on the great loss or waste of blood." "And how the blood lost of waste?" I shook my head. He stepped over and sat down beside me and went on. This is the key question. Where is all that blood going? "You are a clever man, friend John. You reason well, and your wit is bold, but you are too prejudiced. You do not let your eyes see, nor your ears hear, that which is outside your daily life, nor of account to you. Do you not think there are things which you cannot understand, and yet which are, that some people see things that others cannot? But there are things old and new which must not be contemplated by men's eyes, because they know, or think they know, some things which men have told them. It is the fault of our science that wants to explain it all, but if it explain not, then it says there is nothing to explain. But yet we see around us every day the growth of new beliefs, which think themselves new, which are but yet old, which pretend to be young, like the fine ladies at the opera. Did you get your mind off the ladies for once, Van Helsing? You lecherous old loon. I suppose now you do not believe in corporal transference? No? Nor in materialization? No? Nor in astral bodies? No? Nor in the readings of thoughts? No? Nor in hypnotism? Yes, I said. Charcot has proved that very well. He smiled as he went on. Then you are satisfied as to it? Yes. And of course then you understand how it acts, and can follow the mind of the great Charcot, alas, he is no more, into the very soul of the patient that he influenced. No? Then, friend John, am I to take it that you simply accept fact, and are satisfied to let premise be conclusion, be blank? No? Then tell me, for I am a student of the brain, how you accept hypnotism and reject the thought reading. Let me tell you, my friend, that there are things done in today's electrical science that would have been deemed unholy to the very men who discovered electricity, who would themselves not so long have been burned as wizards. There are always mysteries in life. Why was it that Methuselah lived to 900 years? He didn't. An old Parr 169. He didn't. And yet poor Lucy, with 4 men's blood in her poor veins, could not live even one day. For had she lived one day more, we could have saved her. Do you know all the mystery of life and death? Do you know the altogether comparative anatomy, and can say wheretofore qualities of brutes are in some men and not in others? Can you tell me why, when other spiders die small and soon, one great spider lived for centuries in the tower of the old Spanish church, and grew, till, on descending, he could drink the oil of all the church lamps? He didn't. It's a myth. Can you tell me why in the Pampas, and elsewhere, there are bats that come at night and open the veins of cattle and horses and suck dry their veins? They don't. They can stay on there for weeks at a time. The animals die from disease, not blood loss. How in some islands of the western seas there are bats which hang in trees all day, and that these have been described as great nuts or pods, and that when the sailors sleep on the deck, because that is hot, flit down on them, and then in the morning are found dead men, white even as Miss Lucy was? They don't. Fruit bats don't attack people. Good God, Professor, I said, starting up, do you mean to tell me that Lucy was bitten by such a bat, and that such a thing is here in London in the 19th century? He waved his hand for silence and went on. Can you tell me why the tortoise lived more long than generations of men? Why the elephant go on and on till he be seen dynasties? Elephants live for 80 years. They don't see dynasties. And why the parrot never die only of a bite, or a cat or dog or other complaint? Parrots have a long lifespan and then they die. Can you tell me why men believe in all ages and all places that there are some few who live on always as if be permanent? That there be men and women who cannot die? Because men and women in all ages are stupid and superstitious. That's why. We all know, because science has vouched for the fact, that there have been toads shut up in rocks for thousands of years, shut up in one so small hole that only hold him since youth of the world. Can you tell me how the Indian faker can make himself to die and be buried and have his grave sealed and corn sowed over it and the corn reaped and cut down and sowed and reaped again, and then the man come out and take away the unbroken seal, and there lie the Indian faker, not dead, but that rise up and walk amongst them as before? No, you can't, because that's never happened. Here I interrupted him. I was getting bewildered. He was so crowded my mind with his list of nature's eccentricities and possible impossibilities that my imagination was getting fired. I had a dim idea that he was teaching me some lesson, as long ago he used to do in his study at Amsterdam, but he used then to tell me the thing, so that I could have the object of the thought in mind all the time. But now I was without this help. Yet I wanted to follow him, so I said, Professor, let me be your pet student again. Tell me the thesis, so that I may apply your knowledge as you go on. At present I am going in my mind from point to point as a madman, and know not one sane one, and not a sane one, follows an idea. I feel like a novice blundering through a bog in a mist, jumping from one tussock to another, with mere blind effort to move on without knowing where I am going. That is a good image, he said. Well, I shall tell you. My thesis is this. I want you to believe. To believe what? To believe in things you cannot. Let me illustrate. I heard once of an American who so defined faith, quote, that which enables us to believe things that we know to be untrue, close quote. From one, I follow that man. No, you don't. Twain didn't mean that. He didn't mean you should believe these things. He meant you know they're not true. Anyway, he meant that we shall have an open mind and not let a little bit of truth check the rush of the big truth, like a small rock does a railway truck. We get the small truth first. Good. We keep him, and we have value him. But all the same, we must not let him think himself the whole truth in the universe. Then you want me not to let some previous conviction injure my receptivity of my mind with regard to some strange matter. Do I read your lesson aright? Ah, you are my favorite pupil still. It is worth to teach you. Now that you are willing to understand, you have taken the first step to understand. You think that then those small holes in the children's throats were made by the same that made the hole in Miss Lucy? I suppose so. He stood up and said solemnly, You are wrong. Oh, were it were so, but alas, no, it is worse, far worse. In God's name, Professor Van Helsing, what do you mean? I cried. He threw himself with a despairing gesture into a chair and placed his elbows on the table, covering his face with his hands as he spoke. They were made by Miss Lucy. And that ends the chapter. Give Bram Stoker his Drew. He knows how to end a chapter. We put her in a tomb. We saw her die. We had flowers and obsequies. We had the mortician present. Then we put her in a tomb. But she is the Bloofer lady. That's what Van Helsing says to finish the chapter. It's not that those marks are made by the same thing. They were made by her. That's a pretty good cliffhanger. So we will move on. Next time, things are going to pick up steam. Once all of our people get together, once we know what we're talking about, once Van Helsing is no longer dropping his precious vague hints, things will start to move pretty quickly. So I'll wrap this up for now, and we'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.